Wisp Sports Radio, the voice of women in sport.
Hello, and welcome to the 6th episode of Behind the Blocks. I'm your host, two-time Olympic swimmer and 4-time Olympic medalist, Kaitlin Sandeno. Really looking forward to our show today. But first, a word from our sponsor. Dive into summer and enjoy it to the fullest. Cheer on your family Olympians and keep the members of your team diving, swimming, and just having summer fun with Highlands Earache Drops. Highlands wants to make sure your summer fun isn't ruined by ear pain. Highlands Earache Drops provide natural relief from pain, fever, irritability, and occasional sleeplessness associated with earaches. Highlands has been trusted by generations to provide safe, homeopathic medicines for everyone in your family. After you've been diagnosed by a physician, try Highlands homeopathic earache drops or tablets. Earache drops are available at CVS stores. To learn more, go to highlands.com/ear. That's HYLANDS. Highlands.com/ear. Claims are based on traditional homeopathic practice, not accepted medical evidence. Not FDA evaluated. Always read and follow label directions. It has been a true pleasure to watch our next guest blossom, mature, and leave her mark in our sport as she and I go way back. I first met Ella Eastin when she was just 9 years old. I'm humbled to say I was a very small part of her massive career, and she's not done yet. Ella was special in the pool and out from a very young age. She broke numerous national age group and high school records and began her record-breaking college career at Stanford in 2015. She was a member of 3 Pac-12 and NCAA championship teams, 12-time national champ, and I must add, she was the first woman to win 4 NCAA titles in the 400 IM. She is a 20-time All-American, 2018 NCAA Championships Swimmer of the Meet, 4 American and NCAA records, and the list of accolades go on and on. Needless to say, I'm very proud and so excited to be joined today by Ella Eastin. Ella, thank you so much for being on Behind the Blocks.
Thank you for having me. This is maybe going to be one of my favorite podcasts that I've ever done, interviews, to be talking with you specifically. It's been a long time since we've been so close, and I'm so glad that I'm now right down the street. So we'll talk about that, I'm sure. But I'm so looking forward to this, and I'm really honored to be a part of this with you. So thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. So as Ella shared, we literally are neighbors. We're like 5 complexes down from each other. But yeah, we go way, way back. I mean, you went to, what was it, the 2016 duel in the pool where your mom has maybe one of our first pictures from?
Yeah, 2005 or 6.
Oh yeah, sorry, 2005 or 6. Yeah, thank you for correcting me. Obviously, somebody's got to keep me in check here. I'm just so excited for our show today. So we are both from, Southern California, Orange County. Tell everybody how we kind of first met and started working together.
So I was lucky enough to have one of the best physical therapists when I was younger. I grew super quickly and was having a lot of back and knee pain, and Nick connected us. So Kaitlin had been working with Nick throughout her career, and afterwards, kind of working at his office in the back where he had a pool where you could get stroke instruction or just have one-on-one sessions with Kaitlin as a mentorship program. And we kind of worked doing that together for a couple of years. Sometimes I'd sit in the pool and I'd rather just talk to you instead of swim that day. And we had no problem spending the whole time just chatting. And other times I remember my mom would drop me off at a mall, and we would sit there and have a coffee or something and talk. And I just remember feeling so lucky that I had somebody that I looked up to in the sport and as a person, so close in my life. And it was great to have somebody that I considered one of my heroes be there in the flesh with me doing something that I didn't think, when you look at people that you admire, you forget that they're real sometimes. And as a young athlete, I had aspirations to be as successful as you were. And to have a relationship like that is something that really got me through a lot of hard times. And also I was just super excited about, and sometimes bragged to some of my other teammates about too. But that was when I was probably in my young teens, and then I went off to high school and we saw each other intermittently in the swimming world, and now we're super close again, which I'm very, very grateful for.
I know. I love how it comes so full circle. And thank you so much for your kind words. I'm over here blushing and like tearing up a little bit. But you touched on this real briefly, and this is where I kind of want to start the questions here. You had a lot of success at a really young age. And I think what was so refreshing to me was the interactions that I had with your mom and dad when they knew, okay, our daughter is special. She has, a lot of talent already, but they're almost like nervous that that could go in the negative direction. And they wanted to prepare you or equip you to handle what it was like to be successful at a young age. And I think that's just so important and so insightful, because basically your parents came to me like, look, she almost has like a target on her back because she's so fast at such a young age. And people would like celebrate when like you would get second instead of first for once. And you were like 10, to me, that's crazy. I mean, it shows you how crazy sports are and how like gnarly parents can get.
Yeah.
Did you feel that pressure at such a young age?
I think that I put a lot of pressure on myself from the very start of my swimming career. And even in school and kind of everything that I pursued, whether somebody from the outside was telling me that I needed to do X, Y, or Z to be successful, there was already some sort of marker in my head that I wanted to be hitting. And I just did the best that I could at a young age. And I think quickly realized that in order to maintain the level of success that I had achieved, it was going to take more and more work as I got older. And it definitely brought me a lot of stress and anxiety at times. And I was super lucky to have parents who recognized that it was also important for me to live a balanced life, even though I was having success in the pool. And it was so funny because when I came home, for the coronavirus pandemic, my mom and I sat and had some conversations. We were kind of reliving some of my younger childhood moments in the sport, because there were a lot of questions about, what was going to be happening over the course of the next year. And she said, every Friday you and your sister weren't allowed to go to practice, and we forced you to have a social life. And there were other parents that were so upset when you wouldn't come to practice. And then the next day at the swim meet on Saturday, you would, beat everybody. And they would come up and ask, what were Ella and Emily doing during that time? And they said they were out there with their friends doing whatever they felt like they wanted to have some fun, just like all the other kids were. And I think that was a good reminder that, whether I remembered that or not, I mean, it's been such a long time that I've been able to take a Friday off, but I cherished those days, because when I did get to go to practice, it was like, okay, like I only do a couple of these a week. I'm going to work really hard. And then it got to the point where I really wanted to be there. And my parents were like, okay, yeah, that's fine. You can go, because it was almost punishment for me not to be able to go to practice once I really started to love it. And, but I definitely started feeling that stress, but I think a lot of it came from my internal drive to continue to get better. But the outside pressure obviously does not help. And I think that you can relate to that as well. And as you continue, it only gets stronger and stronger. And now with the internet and social media and all of this, pressure put on people from people behind computer screens saying things that they have no right to say, it's like, that doesn't help either. And I think it's been an experience managing all of that and then trying to get back to the reason that I'm continuing to swim in the first place. And so this period of time has been really good for that reflection.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned Emily briefly. Emily, your Irish twin, really, you guys are so close in age. But how many months are you? You guys are just months, aren't you?
11 months.
11 months.
Yeah.
Incredible. And a phenomenal swimmer within herself, going to University of Michigan and swimming there. But you guys come from genes of athletes. Your dad, was it your grandpa, your grandmother? What was it about swimming that you think sucked in you and Emily?
We get that question all the time, and I actually learned to swim about the same time that I learned to walk. My parents
Wow.
met in Southern California, and they decided they were going to stay there, and we had a lot of our family here, and so this is where they settled down. And they knew, there's a pool on every corner. You have to have your kids know how to swim, so you know that they're safe in case they're with a friend and they go to a pool. You want them to be water safe in case someone's not looking. And so we were water babies from the start, and we played basketball and volleyball. My sister played soccer for a tiny bit of time, but swimming was what captivated me from the very beginning, and I enjoyed the culture a lot. And I have memories of, being on the pool deck at a really young age and just sitting by the pool with my friends, playing card games, eating slushies before my before my races in summer league. And it just seemed to be the most fun environment. You would go and you would race, and then 5 minutes later you'd be back sitting in the tent hanging out with your friends. And I think that as you get older, you don't love sitting on the pool deck for as long, but as a kid, like, that's the time that you looked forward to all week, for the weekend, to be out there just enjoying the sun and playing around at the pool. And that just was what I loved about the sport.
When you're in such a competitive sport, and obviously you had a lot of success and Emily was really strong as well. Obviously, I personally know you guys are very, very close, but what was that like growing up, basically having to race and compete against each other so often as well? I mean, was there that sister rivalry, or how did you guys kind of manage that? Because I think that could be kind of tricky when you're that close in age.
It absolutely was difficult to navigate. Emily and I spent all of our time together from when she was born until I left for college. We had a lot of the same friends. We took some of the same classes. Because we were so close in age, we did things at the same time. And she was even more advanced than I was. It was like we would start to do something as a family, and my sister would start at the same age as me. And so she was, 11 months behind, but still able to do everything like I was. And she is a lot more naturally talented than I was. And she ended up not, finishing her career in college for some mental health reasons. And she's a lot happier now and is healthier. And, but she is, 10 times better of an athlete than I am. And she had personal stuff that affected her, and she talks openly about now, and just different battles that she fought. And she was always so supportive of me, and I was always so supportive of her, and we had different strengths. So I think by the time we were in high school, it was pretty obvious that I was doing a little bit better at middle distance events, and she was stronger at sprints. And so she kind of stuck to that, and we complemented each other more so. And during high school, we had an opportunity to be on relays together, and enjoy that and not be so competitive. And I guess I say that from my perspective, but I know that she's expressed to me that it always has been kind of hard, because swimming, I was always 110% in, minus a couple of times where, I was having challenges with the sport. But when I was invested, I was totally invested in. I was never going to apologize for the success that I had, and she never expected me to, but I think that people didn't give her enough credit for what she did, because I was a little bit more well known. And I am so appreciative of her, because she was so supportive of me no matter what, and she still is. And she wants me to finish my career in a way that I'm happy with, and kind of finish it in a positive way for both of us, because it's been such a huge part of our life.
How old do you think you were when you first really realized how talented you were? Like, when was there a light bulb moment where you're like, oh dang, I'm good?
I think I remember a couple of instances where in different in different arenas, I was a little bit ahead of my competitors. And in the Irvine Swim League, when I was 7, it got to a point where my coach was like, if you really want to do this, you should probably go to some club practices and some club swim meets, see how you fare against kids that are training more often instead of just the summer. And I remember my very first meet at Seal Beach. I swam 100 IM for the first time, and I was 7, and I swam my race. I got out, and I was so far ahead that the announcer actually announced that the second place girl finished first because she was actually in the race. So I had already gotten out and walked away. And then I was like, Mom, they didn't give me the credit for it. I was so upset. And she just laughed, and she was like, it's fine to stay in the pool next time. Like, it's okay, honey. And she just laughed about it. But I think during my years as an 11 and 12-year-old, I grew super fast and I matured pretty quickly. And I was a good amount ahead of my competition. And at that point, it was definitely who was bigger, who was stronger for that age group, and I happened to be in that category. And it was at that point, though, that I decided that I wanted to continue to do this and pursue this and try to swim really well in high school and eventually go to college. So I would say probably in my early teens.
Your early teens where you're like, this could take me pretty far along and I could swim in college and let's see what I can do. Did you feel like you had to have a moment with your parents or with your coaches where you said, like, I'm all in, I want this? Or do you think it was just kind of like a natural, like everybody just kind of was already on the same page without having to have that real serious conversation?
I think that coaches understood how invested I was because of how hard I worked every single day and how much of a racer I was when I got up behind the blocks, no matter what type of meet I was at. It didn't matter if it was the Irvine Swim League at a neighborhood pool or if it was junior nationals. I was there to race and compete, and that's what I love doing. And I don't think I needed to have that conversation until high school. And I decided to switch coaches at that point, and it was because I felt like my desires for the progress that I wanted to make at that point weren't necessarily being recognized and met with the same level of passion in terms of my coaching and my training as an athlete. And I eventually moved to SoCal, where the first conversation that I had with Steve Piquel, he was like, you know what, I'm going to admit I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I'm not the best coach, but I am going to do whatever it takes to make you as successful as I can while you're here with me training. And that to me was what I wanted in a coach, was somebody that was as invested as I was. And honestly, it was a little hard to find. And sometimes I struggled with being around different like kids and groups who were there, to hang out with their friends, which was fine. But to me, it was more of something that I was pursuing. Like there was a very clear goal of always getting better and improving. And so that's something that I've always struggled with, is like finding that the group of people that kind of matched my level of investment. And I think I eventually found my place everywhere I went, and found those people. And I think that's eventually why I ended up at Stanford. And that I felt so immediately at home there with everybody. And being around type A motivated people is really great for your own success, but it also brings its own challenges too. So, but I craved that sense of urgency in everything that I did. And so being around people that also felt the same was really encouraging for me.
I love what you shared about your coach, Steve Piquel, because I feel like, coaches sometimes have, massive egos, right? And a lot of times that's why they're good. But for Steve just to be so upfront, and that's something that I've always really appreciated about Steve, is that he just legitimately cares so much. And it's so inspiring and refreshing to hear. And I just can't really find the right words how I feel like he's just a perfect match for you and your success and your that swimmer coach relationship, because you want to have somebody that's been there before, right? Steve has a very impressive background,
yeah,
but also that care level, and he's so invested, and you guys you worked so well together, your high school days together, and like you said, it set you up so nicely for Stanford. But before we get to Stanford, one of the things that we also have in common is the first time we were on an international stage, our first international competition, we were only 16 years old. And kind of going back to Steve a little bit more, how did Steve help you get ready for that? Because that's a lot to take on at a young age. And how was that first international experience for you?
He was a great mentor for that. He would often compare his experiences to mine and make jokes about how much more mature I already was compared to him at that age in terms of my decisions and stuff. And he would always make light of all of his, you know, past behaviors, as a crazy teenager, as he described himself. But he was so positive, and he was so confident in me, and that's all I needed. It was like I needed somebody to watch me every single day, and even if it wasn't my best practice, like I got out of the pool and he was, proud of something that I had done. It was like, you worked really, really hard today, or like, this looked really great today. I'm excited to see what you're going to do tomorrow when you feel better. And that just adds up. You get to the end of the season and it's 5 minutes before your race that you've tapered for. And I don't even need to say anything to him. Like, we look at each other and have the mutual understanding that we've together prepared for this moment, and not much has to be said anymore, because every single day he's given me that positive affirmation that I'm moving in the right direction, which I really, really cherished in high school. And Bruce Furness, who also coached me at SoCal, was always there, willing to offer me advice. And Steve would often joke, because it was like some days I didn't even need to practice. Like, I needed to just sit on the side of the pool deck and have Bruce give me like an inspirational speech. And that's what I needed that day. And they balance each other out perfectly. And which is exactly part of the reason why I decided to come home, which I know that we were going to talk about. And I feel like this is a good transition. And I decided to come back and swim with my club team here at SoCal and be with the people that I know, love, and care about me, and in ways where my swimming is the least of their priorities. It's like they want to help me succeed in the pool because that's what I'm passionate about, and that's where I have my goals set right now. But they want me to be a healthy and happy and successful person in and out of the pool. And coming home to people like you two, who I have a long relationship with and can look up to, and kind of use your experiences and compare them to mine, and just be surrounded by my family more often than I was up in Palo Alto, has been a good change. And I had an amazing experience up north. But everybody needs a change of scenery sometimes. And I had my 5 years there, and this coronavirus pandemic, I think, was a little bit of a catalyst to bring me home, and I can focus on getting healthy and try to, pursue this next year with as much energy as I can, but really make sure it's focused on what I need to be doing. And I think, having a little bit of headspace has given me the perfect opportunity to kind of make a plan that I feel like is right for me at this point in my life.
Oh my gosh, I know. It's the roller coaster that you and our past guests have been on, and just all the athletes. I mean, the highs are so highs and the lows are so lows, and you have everything in between. I mean, when did you know that this is the change that you needed? I know we talked about it some, but I know a lot of athletes are kind of, struggling, and you do hear people that are switching programs, and now you have to lock in for another year. What was it that ultimately, because I know you were very torn. What was it?
Yeah. At the very beginning of this year, I started to recognize that I was really unhealthy and essentially overtrained and underfueling, and my mental health was not in the best place. And I tried my very best to get back, but I was trying to get back on a timeline that wasn't reasonable for what I was dealing with. And with the Olympics, it's like you don't think you have time, which at the time I didn't. If everything had gone according to plan and Olympic trials had been over already, like, I can say with confidence that I would not have been ready to perform at my best, which would have been a darn shame after putting so many years of my life and kind of pouring it into this one sort of outcome, which unfortunately that's kind of what sports does sometimes. But I was given the opportunity to come home and was forced to stay out of the pool. And after a couple weeks of being here, usually in college, I would come home for a little while and I'd be itching to go back. And I recognized that I was at home, and this is kind of where I needed to be to heal and to become my best self again. And things aren't moving super quickly in society, getting back to normal at any normal rate. So I feel less rushed. And I feel like living here gives me a little bit, a better sense of relief too. I love being by the beach. Like I have a generally like really healthy lifestyle living here, being able to walk around and bike everywhere, and just being close to my mom and my dad and people that I've spent a long time away from in college. And I don't think I recognized how blessed I was until, I came home, and a lot of my friends were like, I came home for quarantine, but I was only there for 3 weeks because I, wanted to be by myself and not with my family. And I was like, I could live with my mom for the rest of my life and I'll be fine. And, like not many people can say that. And I feel so, so lucky. And like taking the opportunity to do this at this point, I think I recognize that if I'm going to do this at any time, it's going to be now. And I may as well take the opportunity. And I haven't looked back since. And so I'm just going to try to keep moving forward as I always do.
Well, yeah. I mean, you've had, oh my gosh, Ella, you had the most impressive, when I look back at your college career, I'm blown away. I mean, you name it, you accomplished it. And you kicked butt from like the first you were there. And your college career is just downright impressive. And then you look at like your internationals, like your summers almost, and I swear like every summer you've had to overcome like a huge obstacle or a setback or an illness. Talk us through the highs of doing so well during the college year and then having your illnesses and the setbacks that you've had, kind of like, it's almost like every summer, right? I feel like, I don't want to put words in, I was like, yeah. How do you handle that? And kind of talk us through, if some people might not be as familiar with your highs and your lows, and kind of how you would advise other swimmers or athletes that might be going through this to have such this strong positive outlook that I truly feel like you possess.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. But it was like clockwork every summer, and it made it hard because I think that there was almost an anticipation of something happening, which I don't think helped. And I always had the willpower to kind of dig myself out of the hole for whatever reason. And sometimes it was a lot slower than other times. After my freshman year was Olympic trials, and that didn't go well. And that wasn't because I was sick or anything. It was like I was not emotionally mature enough to handle that as an athlete. And some of my behaviors like didn't necessarily bode well for me with, preparing mentally or just all the preparation that it takes to be ready to make an Olympic team. I physically was training enough and I was doing what it took. But there are just slight nuances to, I think, maturity as an athlete. And I wasn't there, and it was really, really hard to cope with right afterwards. But I think I quickly recognized that, I wasn't ready yet. And luckily the Olympics happens relatively frequently, and I was going to have another opportunity to shoot for it. And so after, a month off after Olympic trials, I went at it again. And my sophomore year was pretty successful at Stanford, and I was in really great shape going into the summer. And then I got disqualified at World Championships for the Lochte rule in the 400 IM. And that was a really hard pill to swallow because I felt like I had, done everything that I could to prepare. And then I also followed through with my performance, and then it was taken away from me. I, actually decided after that meet that I was going to be done, and that was going to be it. And a couple weeks later, I found out that I made it to the World University Games. And my coaches were like, you don't have to make a decision long-term, but like, it's a really great opportunity to represent your country. And I was like, you're right. I'll come back and start training for it. Had an awesome experience traveling. I went to 3 different meets all around the world that summer. And my love for the sport came back. It was like, it didn't matter that I wasn't at World Championships. It mattered that I was out like in a foreign country, enjoying this time with other people that also loved what they were doing. And when we got back a week later, like Stanford swimming was starting again, and I didn't even have much time to think about it. I was just like, okay, like it's another year. And junior year ended up being probably objectively my most successful year in the pool. And after NCAAs, I was just stoked for the summer. I was swimming faster than I ever had. I was feeling better than I ever had in the pool. Granted, I was dealing with a lot of personal stuff that year, which ended up being really, really heavy and weighed on me and affected my immune system. My sleep wasn't great. I had lots of anxiety that I battled that year. And I eventually got mono a couple weeks before that nationals. And I can say like with great certainty that it was because I was so stressed and so overwhelmed with so many things going on in my life that my body couldn't handle it anymore. And it just got sick. And I had been training super well. And I was lucky enough that training kind of carried me through. And I didn't exercise for like 3 straight weeks before that meet. And I got up and I was like, you know what? Like, I'm not giving up. I'm not going to throw in the towel. I might as well see what I can do at this meet. And I was more tapered than I ever had been and swam great. It wasn't pain-free. It hurt more than I can like even describe. That race was so painful. Yeah. But I touched just in time to be able to make the Pan Pac team. And I really struggled deciding whether I even wanted to go, because I felt so horrible for so long with mono. And it was such a hard decision. And I said, you know what, if I don't do this, I'm going to look back and regret it. And that's kind of always how I moved through. And I think that's what I advise people when they ask, you know, how do you get through these tough times? And it's like, I think about what my future self is going to think of past me. And I have always based my decisions on what's going to make me most fulfilled in the future. If I decide to do this now, does that mean that later I might regret not getting an opportunity? Or does later that mean I am going to regret not trying? And I never, ever want to have those types of regrets. When you can control your actions and control when you show up, where you show up, and how you show up, I think it's so important to listen to yourself and really be honest and look at yourself in the mirror and know that you made the choice that is the best version of you. And for me, that was always like, you know what, I can give it another shot. Like, this isn't the end of the world. Yes, swimming is important to me, but it's not the end all be all of my life. And I am going to make the best of it, even though there have been times where I have been really, really challenged and have considered, you know, stopping.
I'm so proud listening to you right now. I'm just over here beaming. I'm like, this is my girl. And I truly am. And I think it's so inspiring. And I feel like it's so, such strong, valid points that you bring up. And it's relatable, you know, the sport obviously, I mean, has so many great things that we pull from it, but it doesn't come without a price. You know, we get kicked down a lot, we get beat up a lot, we get worn down a lot.
Yeah.
But it's that mental side that really keeps us going, and kind of separates the good between the great. And you, my dear, you're great. And I'm just so proud of you. And something else I'm just so proud of you is, obviously you shine in the pool, but you're one smart cookie out of the pool as well. Talk to us. I mean, obviously Stanford, I mean, my goodness, the academics with the mix of balancing athletics. I mean, what was that like for you in college, and how did you maintain that?
Well, thank you for saying that. I have always taken pride in my work, and that means my work in every area. And from a very young age, I felt personally pressured to do the best that I could. And I always talk about this, but my 4th grade teacher, you know, one day we showed up to class, and I think people had turned in assignments that were subpar for her for her standards, and she was telling some of these kids that they weren't going to get into college. And I was just so in fear that I was going to fail and not get into college. And from that day, it was like I swear I had such bad anxiety about my performance in school because of this teacher, but it also pushed me. And I worked really, really hard in high school to try to take the classes that I would need to take to get into any university that I wanted to once I decided, where I wanted to be for school and for swimming. And I got there, and you can prepare as much as you think you can in high school, but nothing truly prepares you for life as a college student athlete. There are so many things behind the scenes that are really, really hard, from, relationships on your team, to living away from home, to not being in a place where you're surrounded by people that from having to manage your own eating schedule, doing your laundry, going to class, finding class, having a car or a bike and having it break and having to fix it, and then trying to be at your tip-top shape all the time to be able to perform for your college. It's like, and then at the same time, you need to do well in school. So you got to study hours every single day. And I look back and that's one of the things I'm most proud of. And I'm not even afraid to say it anymore, is like everything that I did in college, I am just astounded. And you really just put your head down and just like work really hard. And you can't, if you knew what it was going to take to, follow through and succeed, it's like many people probably wouldn't even dare to try after experiencing it. And you have to know that it's going to be tough, but also be willing to embrace the really, really hard parts, because you're going to walk away like seeing yourself as a completely new, changed, grown person. And I feel like I'm ready to take on so many things in my life because of what I experienced as a college student athlete. And I couldn't thank Stanford more. Greg and Tracy really helped me grow. And I talked to them and saw them more than my parents, even when I was in high school. And so they really shaped me into the person I am too. And growing up with girls that are going through the same things as you, and experiencing that with your best friends, it makes it easier and worth it. But it doesn't make it flawless. And no student athlete will say that their experience was perfect or that it was easy. It's just that everybody has a smile on their face, because it really is some of the best years of your life. And you are recognizing that, life is freaking hard, but it's also super fun if you can just set aside the tough parts some days to just enjoy the moment that you're living in.
I'm so proud. Yes. I mean, and I love that you are not ashamed to say, I'm really proud of what I got done during that time. I get asked, what are you most proud of? I'm actually getting a degree while I was training so hard. And then, because there's life after swimming. And I think your parents have just so equipped you mentally, physically, emotionally, that there's more to life than swimming. So Ella, where does life take you after swimming? Where do you foresee that next chapter when this journey in the pool ends?
So I've actually started to open some of my nursing school applications, which has been very exciting, but also a little nerve-wracking. It's been a while since I've had to apply for anything. So I have to start to, write essays about myself. And that's always really challenging, but a really good reflective experience. But I'm going to be applying to, they're called accelerated master's in nursing programs or accelerated bachelor's in nursing programs. So they enroll students that have undergraduate degrees in something other than nursing. So a lot of students, I would say, have health science background or not. So they have a huge mix of different students who come from different backgrounds and want to pursue a nursing career. And eventually I'll come out of it with a master's, and then I plan to also pursue a doctorate of nursing practice or a PhD. And I haven't decided yet, but I really do love school, and I'm a total nerd, and I'm not even ashamed. I appreciate the structure of it, and I love having tasks and being able to accomplish them, and learning from really, really bright people. And I'm looking forward to doing some really good in the world. And I hope that some of my experiences too as an athlete are going to help me in my professional career. And I know that they will, in terms of being able to work with other people and manage really stressful times in my life. But I also hope that some of my personal experiences with my health and other things I'll be able to help young women and, maybe even young athletes as a healthcare provider. So there's lots to look forward to. And I know that swimming will always be a huge part of me, and that maybe I'll have, one of my hands in the swimming buckets at some point again. But I'm also looking forward to some new challenge too. And I'm excited that I can see the light, but I also am recognizing like that I get to enjoy the next year or so fully invested in what I'm doing as a swimmer. So
I love that. I obviously already knew that, this is the direction you wanted to go to, but I wanted to cue it up because I think it's a route that I don't hear about too often. I think I maybe have one friend that did that. And just the other night when we were together, you're just already so educated in that world. It's just so impressive. And I'm just so proud of that about you. But yes, like you said, we still have another year to press forward. And we got to talk a little quarantine here before we wrap up, because again, personally, I know that you have really made the best out of this situation. Share a little bit how you've handled this quarantine and how you're still able to get all your fitness. And I'm so impressed with how you've really made the best out of this and how you really pushed yourself and kind of thought outside the box. Share a little bit with your quarantine training, how that's been going and what you've been doing.
Yes, well, thank you. I appreciate that. My mom and I quickly realized that, sitting on the couch and working from home just wasn't sustainable for our physical or our mental health. It was like I came home and was almost so paralyzed by the uncertainty. I love a good checklist and I love my calendar, and that was thrown out the window the minute that this pandemic happened. And the first week I sat on the couch and I was like, what is going to happen with my life? What is happening now? I couldn't get myself to really do anything. And then I realized, I was like, okay, sitting here festering and thinking about all the possibilities is just not going to help. And so I wrote a little schedule down and I was like, okay, today I'm going to go and I'm going to do a really long walk with my mom in the morning on the beach. And then I'm going to come back. I'm going to try to do some work because I'm currently doing some research now. And then later I'm going to do a tiny HIIT circuit. And then I eventually started doing some workouts with your wonderful husband, Pete, in our little back alleyway.
In our backyard.
I know, it was so fun, but it was great to put something on the calendar, and have something to look forward to. And it seems so simple, but it also completely changed my mood and my attitude. I think people don't give exercise enough credit for the way that it affects us and our mental health. And I made sure to implement that every single day into my schedule once I realized I was feeling a little bit down. And I was like, it's because I haven't exercised. And it doesn't even take much. It's like you need to go walk around the block a couple times or something and get some fresh air and reset your mind. And we ended up buying a Peloton, which was amazing to get some good cardio in. And my mom and I we did Pilates in the morning with our Pilates instructor over Zoom 3 days a week. And we've been, good positive influences over each other and have had fun kind of cooking new things. And we did burn out in the kitchen a little bit just because making every single meal and having to clean up from every single meal is a little bit more tiring than I would have expected. But we're getting back into that routine. And now that, pools are starting to open again, it's like, okay, maybe there's going to be a little bit more structure there, and slowly adding things back in, I think has also been beneficial to not try and overdo it. Because I think going from having really no resources to everything open at once is also hard for athletes, because people tend to be like, oh my God, I have to make up for lost time. But you really have to make sure that you're not overdoing it, because you could set yourself back, which I'm absolutely guilty of in the past. So
that's a really good point. And I love too that you've been doing some open water swimming too, like going what do we live, like 7-8 minutes from the ocean, and just going and jumping in and getting some swims out there. Does that help you? Like, is that therapeutical for you?
Absolutely. I think getting to swim with some people that I don't train with, because they're not swimmers, they are surfers or body surfers, or they're just generally active people, getting to go out there and feeling like safer around them, because I'm not a huge fan of the open ocean. I don't know why. I grew up by the beach and I love being in the water, but I don't love going out there and swimming. But in a group of people, I have no problem doing it, but I still close my eyes sometimes when I'm looking down. But being able being able to swim in any form of water has been great. And so Kaitlin and I have these really small pools in front of our apartments, which it was funny because my friends found out that I had them and they're like, why don't you swim in there? And I was like, it's literally 5 yards. Like I can't really do anything in it, but it got to the point that I missed it so much that I was in there just sculling back and forth to feel the water, because just being in the water is therapeutic itself. And so having that opportunity has been really, really nice.
Well, it was a blast for me we literally were in the back alley and my husband would be like running us through these workouts, but it'd be so funny because like, okay, now we're getting Ella like in shape. Like, let's get her ready. And we're doing these workouts. I'm like, dang, this is hard. And I'm like, oh man, what am I doing? I'm a retired athlete. I don't need to do that many reps. I'm like, Ella, you keep going. You got this, girl. I'm going to take a little water break real quick. But like, it was helpful for me to have you, because otherwise I'd be like to my husband, don't tell me what to do. I got this, but with you, I'm like, okay, try to hang in there. Just, don't be a terrible training partner.
It was so much fun. I think like that was what I looked forward to most during the week. And so for us to be able to be there for each other, I think was really, really great.
Oh, and that's the thing, it takes a village, right? And that's how we're going to get through this all. And, we're all in the same boat, but we're all affected in different ways. And if we can just support each other and love on each other and just try to like, just be really accepting, right? Like, I feel like everybody just needs to take a deep breath and just learn to love on each other a little bit more. And that's how we're going to get through this challenging time. And I mean, it's like I've already said like a million times, I'm just so proud of you. And it's just so great to, have you. That's like my biggest blessing in quarantine is that you moved back home and now you're my neighbor. And Ella drops off like little like care packages at my door and like little like cookies. And I'm like, gosh, I just totally scored. I have the best neighbor ever. But before Ella, we say our goodbyes, we have a tradition on Behind the Blocks. What are you like behind the blocks?
When I step up to the blocks and I'm going to swim a race, and I want to be my very best self, I am confident, I am smiling, I am powerful, and I'm strong.
I love that. Are you chatty or are you quiet?
I sometimes talk, and I sometimes feel like words don't need to be said because I try to just leave it all in the pool.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, we all know you're not short for words.
No.
But when it's time to go, it's time to go. And you're like, I'll let my actions speak. I love that. Such a leader, such a captain. Well, obviously, Ella, I'm very biased, but I love you like a little sister, and I'm so proud of you. And, obviously celebrating your highs, but really proud of how you've handled some of, your more challenging times. And a lot of the times when I look at you and I look at your career, it reminds me a lot of my own, we went to the same physical therapist, and I feel like we both had to overcome very similar things, but I'm just proud of you and I'm proud to know you. And I just really want to thank you for being on our show today. And I'm rooting for you always, always and forever.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so grateful. This was so fun. And I feel like long overdue that we got the chance to do this. So I'm very appreciative.
Oh, absolutely. Well, that is our show this week. Thank you again to the fabulous Ella Eastin for being my special guest, and to our sponsor, Highlands Earache Drops. Make sure to visit them at highlands.com/ear. Don't forget to follow and share on social media at Kaitlin Sandeno and at Wisp Sports. Thanks for listening and helping us turn up the volume on women's sports.